Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Craig. We are getting ready for our lesson 1 for the week of April 13th to the 17th. I hope you're all well and hanging in there. So for our Learn About It, we're going to be learning about area of a sector and arc length. So first, for some vocabulary, when we are talking about the sector of a circle, we are talking about the region that's bound between two radii and its arc. So this is shaded in area here. If we want to find the area, the amount of space that this actually covers, we use the formula pi times radius squared times the quantity of m divided by 360. R stands for our radius, and m is the measure of the arc, which is what we had learned in our lessons last week. So to find the steps in finding that area of a sector, again, we're going to use the formula. We're going to substitute in our values for r and our m, and then we're going to simplify. If it says to round to the nearest hundredths, we're going to use 3 and 1400ths as our approximation of pi. Let's put this into action. We're going to find the area of the sector, and we can round to the nearest hundredth. And we want to find HGJ. So here's my sector, HGJ. Again, first we're going to write down the formula. So area equals pi. Remember, when we're next to it, means multiply radius squared times the quantity m divided by 360. We're going to substitute in our values. So we're going to use 3 and 1400ths for pi. We're then going to multiply that by my radius. So my radius is 12. And then we're going to multiply that by the area of my arc. So remember, we learned last week that the area of the arc matches the area of that central angle. So this will be 131 divided by 360 degrees. We would type this all into our calculator. Just remember, we're using multiplication in between there, and we would get 164 and 62 hundredths. To apply to our mathematical precision, we would label with meters, and since it's area, it would be meters squared. All right, so next one. Again, we're just applying what we just learned. Area of a sector, pi rounded to the nearest hundredths. Just time we are doing JKL. So here's JKL. So that's my sector. We start with that formula. So area equals pi times radius squared times measure of our arc divided by 360. So we have area equals. Since we are approximating pi, we'd use 3 and 1400ths. Remember, we are multiplying. My radius this time is 16 inches squared times the measure of my arc is 36 divided by 360 degrees. Again, we would put this into our calculator and we would get 80 and 42 hundredths. Our proper label would be inches. Again, area means inches squared. So now we're going to talk about the arc length. So last week we did the measurement of the arc. This week we're doing what's the actual length. So if we would actually stretch it out and measure it, what would we get? So our formula for arc length is 2 times pi times r times the quantity of m divided by 360. Again, r is my radius and m is my arc measure. So now let's apply it. So we would use our formula just like when we were doing area, except we have the formula for arc length, substitute our values for radius and the measurement of the arc, again, simplify, we can use 3 and 1400ths for pi. So we want to find the arc length, and they're telling me to round. So we want to find the arc length, in this case, of F to G. So we're doing from F to G. So we want to kind of think this is the part we are going to find the length of. We would write down our formula. So length is equal to 2, remember that means times pi, times r, times the quantity of m divided by 360. Then we would substitute our values. So we would have 2 times, again, we can approximate pi to be 3 and 1400ths, times my radius right here is 8, times my arc length, they told me right here is 134, divided by 360. And we would substitute or plug this all into our calculator, and we would get 18 and 7100ths. And we are using the label of centimeters. Since it's not area, it's length, we just leave it as centimeters. Okay, our next one, again, we have our formula. This time we are arc length. Again, we're rounding, and this time it's G to H. So we're going from G to H. So it's kind of if we're using just this piece here for my arc. So again, we would write down the formula. So length is equal to 2 times pi times r times measurement divided by 360. So length is equal to 2 pi. Again, we're going to use 3 and 1400ths. Remember, sometimes the parentheses makes it a little bit easier when we're doing the multiplying times my radius, which is, sorry about that, my radius, which is 6, times the quantity of my arc length, which is 40, or the measurement of my arc, which is 40, divided by 360. Again, we would substitute that all into our calculator. We would get 4 and 1900ths, and we would label it with the meters. So both for the area of the sector and the arc length, we're using our formulas and substituting in the proper values. So next you'll go on to the try it pages and do some practice with those, and then there'll be the show what you know. Take care and talk to you soon.